Hello, today I'm here with a reading of Alfred Lord Tennyson's short poem "Tears, Idle Tears." The poem is written at a time that Tennyson had lost a friend, so the depressed mood can be considered as part of the poem. Anyway, let's go and read the poem. After reading the poem, I will discuss the genre of the poem, which is a blank verse, and then I may provide you with a comparison of blank verse and free verse, and we'll discuss their differences alongside bringing some examples of both of them. Tears I Did Tears Anyway is an example of blank verse. So tears I Did Tears, I know not what they mean. Many of us have experienced this, that we cry or there are tears in our eyes, but we don't know the source of them. Here, Tennyson is trying to explain why we sometimes cry without knowing it. Tears, either tears, I know not what they mean. Tears from the depths of some divine despair rise in the heart and gather to the eyes. So it seems that this sadness is an eternal one, and it starts in the heart. So the source of these idle tears that we don't know where they come from. It's actually in the heart. They rise in the heart, and then they gather to the eyes. So they are something heartfelt related to the heart itself or emotion. In looking on the happy autumn fields and thinking of the days that are no more. Sometimes the season autumn is also associated with depression because it gets the days are actually getting shorter, so it gets darker sooner in the day. And because of this experience, many people experience seasonal depression. I do myself experience this. I don't like, for example, the early days of autumn. I don't know what's in the air, but I feel it anyway. When he looks at the autumn fields and in harvesting the products and wheats and things like that, he feels a sadness and thinking of the days that are no more and thinks of the past, the days which are not going to repeat itself. So the poem, alongside stanzas, follows a nostalgic kind of mood. So nostalgia can be considered as one of the themes of the poem. So these tears are related to something which is past, and bygones are not bygones. It seems that they return, the past memories and experiences return, but this time in form of tears. And now we read about the quality of these tears. In each stanza, he discusses and shows some other related images and moods to the tears. Fresh they are. The tears are fresh as the first beam glittering on a sail. They are as fresh as the first rays of the sun while a ship is over a sea that brings our friends up from the underworld. So in the morning, in the day, but the beginning of the day, we remember what we have lost. That brings our friends up from the underworld. And underworld in the Greek mythology is the location of the dead people, sad as the last which raddens over one. So the memories and the tears are fresh as the first ray of the sun in the morning, and they are also sad. And these are our friends up from the underworld, and they are sad as the last which reddens over one. Or they can be as sad as the last ray in the sunset. So they are as fresh as the sunrise, and they are as sad as the sunset that sinks with all we love below the verge. In the morning, we remember. In the darkness of the sunset, we forget. But every day, this memory repeats itself. So sad, so fresh, the days that are no more. The last line of each stanza somehow gathers the images introduced in the previous lines. Sad, and the last image was a sad one, as sad and strange as in dark summer dawns, the earliest pipe of half awakened beards to dying ears. Uh, We may all have experienced this in the early morning when there's still darkness in the air. The birds start to tweet or to make many noises. Anyway, they are piping. The earliest pipe of half-awakened birds in the morning is both sad and strange, and the quality of the tears also remembers this mood of feeling. To dying ears maybe that you're really dying at the moment of death, or dying ears because you're getting to sleep, so your ears are not listening or hearing anything anymore. But these are the last noises, sounds you're going to hear before getting to sleep. When unto dying eyes, the casement, and that was the auditory image. There is also a visual image. The casement to the dying eyes, the casement means the frame of the window. The casement slowly grows a glimmering square as we're getting to sleep, or as we're dying maybe. Both of the images are working here. Or it is like dying anyway. The light in the casement, the early light of the morning in the casement is getting slowly smaller and smaller because our eyes are closing. So little by little we can see nothing. So sad, so strange, the days that are no more. And the fact that we are still awake at that time in the early morning shows that there is something knowing us, so that we have lost a night's sleep. Dear, now those tears are dear, as remembered kisses after death. Okay, they are dear, but they are not functional. When you kiss a dead body, it doesn't work. Dear as remembered kisses after death, and sweet as those by hopeless fancy feigned in lips that are for others. So, or you imagine in your imagination, in your fancy, you kiss someone you loved, but that love went nowhere. So you just feign a kiss, you just fake it, you just imagine it on lips that are for others. Deep as love, the tears are deep as love, deep as first love. And now we talk about the first love, and wild without regret. The first love is very wild, passionate, emotional, but at the same time, when we remember our first loves, when we were an adolescent, for example, oh, we remember these things and we think, oh, we were not a match. So this is how you feel about the first love. Its passion is no more to repeat itself in any other form, because it is the first one. The first ones are always different, but at the same time, we regret that it was somehow foolish, or maybe what did we do, how we spent our time, so somehow nostalgic at the same time. Oh, death in life, the days that are no more. So this way of living with tears, with such kinds of emotion is not real life, it's death in life. And now death in life, the days that are no more. Death in life with a capital D and capital L can be a reminder and an allusion to a character in Samuel Taylor Coleridge's famous poem The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. In that poem there is a woman called Death in Life, and she's throwing dice with death and then she wins. So the mariners or the board of the ship are alive, but they don't have human emotions. Death in Life can also be a reference to that poem and that character created by Coleridge, Tennyson's predecessor, actually. Now, after reading the poem, we can move on to the discussion of blank verse. So let's see what is a blank verse. Blank verse consists of lines of iambic pentameter, five stress iambic verse. And if you're interested to know more about iambic pentameters, you can watch my video on sonnet, which are unrhymed, hence term blank. Blank means that the place of the rhyme is actually blank. So we have metrical patterns, we have a specific metrical pattern actually, which is iambic pentameter, but at the same time rhyme is optional, and in many occasions rhyme is not available. Blank verse is a favorite type of poem in English literature because it is closest to its rhythms are actually closest to English speech. Like when we speak in English, there is like that iambic pentameter or iambic. There is unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. So this way of following the words in English speech is similar to what is practiced by poets in iambic pentameter or pentameter, iambic, sorry, in general. And finally, it's been more frequently and variously used than any other form of versification. From its introduction to English literature till now, there are great poets who have used this mode for writing their poems. We're going to discuss them. How it is introduced to English literature by Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey. Earl of Surrey has translated Aeneid, some parts of Aeneid in blank verse, and then Elizabethan poets and playwrights such as Christopher Marlowe and William Shakespeare used this form of writing in and mode of poetry in their plays, in their verse plays actually. So blank verse becomes a dominant form during the Elizabethan era. Later on, after the Elizabethan period, John Milton wrote his great epic Paradise Lost also in blank verse. Many poets have this role of dispersing the genre and also establishing it as a great mode of poetry writing in English. From then on, even in modern poetry, such as the poetry of T.S. Eliot and Maxwell Anderson, we can see even plays written in a verse form or some kind of established free form of a blank verse is used by these poets in their plays. Anyway, it was maybe perfected in the plays by Marlowe and Shakespeare and then on in John Milton's epic. But anyway, the form maybe was first used extensively in plays and later on in poetry because maybe in a long play it was difficult for the poet to find many rhyming words, so they prefer to keep the metrical pattern while because it was close to English speech, while they thought that maybe it's difficult to find rhymes and they omitted rhyme from their verse plays. There are many famous examples of this genre. We can talk about Milton's Paradise Lost, which is an epic form. Samson's The Seasons, which is a descriptive and philosophical verse form. Wordsworth's Prelude, his actually lifelong project, which is autobiographical, is also written in blank verse. Tennyson's Longer Idylls of the King, which deals with the stories of Arthurian time, is also written in blank verse. So a kind of pastoral form is also used. Browning's The Ring and the Book, which is about an incident which is narrated by different speakers, is also written in this form. T.S. Eliot's famous poem The Wasteland is also blank verse. And Coleridge's Frost at Midnight is a meditative lyric. So lyrical form is also embodied this form. And Wordsworth's Tintern Abbey as another descriptive meditative romantic poem, which is written in blank verse. And Tennyson's Tears Are the Tears, which was our example, is also in blank verse. And in blank verse, actually, unlike Tears Are the Tears is an exception, but we don't have divisions. The divisions in this form are actually called sometimes paragraph or verse paragraphs, because the number of the line is not already determined by the form, and it depends on the poet and the conditions of the poem itself. So it's more an internal issue of the poem rather than an external framework imposed on the poem. And how does blank verse is different from free verse? Because many a times I've seen students actually mix the two and they don't know the characteristics. While blank verse, in short, we can say while in blank verse we have a metrical pattern but no rhyme. In free verse, we are free of both of them. So no metrical pattern, no rhyme scheme, or no specific ones at least. So as a general definition, we can say that free verse has another name, which is called open verse. It is taken from French vers libre. Like traditional verse, it is printed in short lines instead of in continuous lines of prose. So this is the main distinction between a prose work and a poem, which is written in free verse mode. It is written in short lines rather than as continuous lines. And it is different from traditional verse form by its fact that its rhythmic pattern is not organized into regular metrical pattern. It's not regular, so there might be some regulations alongside the poem, but not. Generally speaking, most free verse also has irregular line length because there is no metrical pattern to impose a form. It either lacks rhyme or uses it only sporadically and occasionally. The form blank verse is perfected by the American poet Walt Whitman. About Whitman and his poetry, you can follow my reading of his "Oh Captain, My Captain." There, I have introduced him briefly and his poetry modes. Anyway, he thought that the poem of America should be as diverse as the Americans are. In 1855, Walt Whitman started the literary world with his Leaves of Grass by using verse lines of varying lengths, which depended for rhythmic effects not on recurrent metric beat but on cadenced units. Actually, Whitman thought that the time for limitations of line length and metrical patterns have passed, and he he approached prosody or music in poetry with this way by using cadence units and on the repetition, balance, and variation of words, phrases, clauses, and lines. So this is how he added music to his poems without using a specific metrical pattern or rhyme scheme. Uh, Writing a free verse, as I told you, doesn't mean that the poet doesn't use any traditional kind of meters. Traditional meters are sometimes used, but they are exploited as a possibility, or they are used by the poet to add to the beat and the drive, the drive. Driving musical mode of the poem, but they are not necessarily used as a regular pattern in the poem. And sometimes they use other modes. For example, in this poem by uh, E. E. Cummings, chanson in a sentence, we read, or the poem is somehow famous as the Balloon Man in Just Spring, and you see the space there when the world is Lucius. Lucius is coined by E. Cummings here to talk about the muddy, wet version of the earth in spring. The balloon man is whistling. The little lame balloon man whistles far and we. Because he is whistling far, there is a distance between whistling and here the word and whistles far and we, and you see he had used two e's to add up to the pronunciation of the sound e in the word we. And Eddie. Eddie and Bill, Eddie and Bill, two names, but because they are playing together and they are friends, he has spelled them like this. And Eddie and Bill come running from marbles and piracies, the game the boys are playing, and it's spring when the world is puddle wonderful, the puddly nature. The queer old balloon man whistles far and wee, and Betty and Isabel, again another version of the two girlfriends here, come dancing from hopscotch. Hopscotch, we're familiar with it, and jump rope, And these are games played by the girls in spring. And the goat-footed balloon man whistles far and away, and the poem ends like that. Or sorry. Or we can check this example of mother and son. These two lines, I've marked them with orange, are actually following a metrical pattern, while the other lines don't. And these two lines are longer, and they are also used in consistency with the themes and subject matter of the poem. Mother to Son by Langston Hughes. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. And what it was not is written in metrical pattern. What it is written in this sporadic kind of haphazard line pattern. It's had tacks on it and splinters, and the tacks and splinters also follow the line, and boards torn up, like the poem which is torn up, and the lines which are torn up, in places with no carpet on the floor. And then the word bear stands alone as a singular line to show the barrenness, the loneliness of life. So we can have mixes and combinations of a regular and irregular metrical pattern in a poem. And the two words stare and bear are also rhyming here. And it's interesting that the stare is not only not crystal, but also it is bear. So there is a kind of meaningful combination between the only words in the poem which are rhyming. Or we can check out this poem, which in itself shows or represents or reflects the pattern of the movements of the reeds. The reeds are these types of plants you can see in the picture. The reeds give way to the wind and give the wind away. When they give way to the wind, there is a distance between the two, so the two words are torn apart. The one is the last word of this first line, and the other is the first word of the second line. While here, when they block the wind, they have also the image of a blockage. Give and way, away are giving the wind away, actually, instead of giving way to the wind. So this was my explanation of Tears, Idle Tears by Tennyson and Blank Verse and Free Verse. I hope it is useful, and thank you very much for listening.